Welcome everybody to another episode of the Dragonus Podcastus series. Sorry about last week. We didn't have an episode because my Wi-Fi was being stupid. But anyway, I am Dead Ponic as always, but you may call me Tiffany or Lucy or whatever you want to call me. And with me again is Queen Byron as always.
Yes. Hello, subjects.
Yeah. We haven't quite got an actual kingdom for her yet, but we're kind of working on that part. Anyway, if you like our show and would like to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/Dragonus Podcastus. We also have our Dragonus Podcastus bingo card, which I will post in the description of the video, and you can follow along. I haven't decided what the prize is yet, but once we get this kind of thing more established, I think it'll be a lot of fun. Anyway, so from last time we did a roleplay session, well, let's just say Byron's character Jocelyn Clement was in the middle of doing her best to safeguard the heir to the throne, Princess Lucy. However, we lost the sister Valkyria along the way, and she ran into some quirky characters. But this time, and also she took an arrow, a bolt for Princess Lucy as well. So she is currently recovering in the hospital. But don't worry, she's okay. And that's where our story picks up. Byron, are you all set?
I'm ready.
Okay. Let us begin the session. 1 week has passed since you were shot. You lay in a hospital bed, though your mid-chest isn't burning anymore and your wounds are healing quite nicely. Over the course of the week, you've had several visitors, most notably the Queen and Princess Lucy have visited you while you were sleeping, and Sir Nutmeg has guarded your bedside. The doctor comes in and sits on a stool by your bedside as you slowly wake up. You yawn and stretch as far as you can before sitting up and looking at the doctor.
Well, am I free to go, Doc?
The doctor consults a clipboard. Well, your wounds have nearly healed fully. We've repaired the damage to your midsection, and there's no indication of it opening back up and bleeding. So I'm inclined to give you a clean bill of health. However, I would recommend you either use a cane or a wheelchair to maintain mobility. The bolt didn't hit your spine, but I don't want to take any chances.
Good.
You look around the room.
Where's my armor?
Yeah, about that. The bolt that hit you punched cleanly through the plate, full penetration. He holds up the head of a crossbow bolt. You see it covered in dried blood. Unfortunately, you won't be able to use that cuirass anymore. The other pieces of your armor set are perfectly intact, however. Commander Viking has already put in an order to George to reforge the cuirass. Until then, you'll have to do without. A sister walks in, salutes towards you, and you salute back. Apologies, ma'am. Orders from the king. You are to report to the war room immediately. The doctor stands up. I'll have the nurse bring you a cane. He turns to the sister. Tell His Majesty Sister Clement will be on her way up as soon as possible. The sister nods and walks off. 5 minutes later, a nurse walks in with a cane. She helps you off the hospital bed and hands you the cane. You haul your way out of the hospital room towards the war room. As you approach the door to the war room, 2 knights stand on either side. One of them raises a hand to stop you. Halt! Name, rank, and position.
Clement, Colonel, Sister Knight.
The knight opens the door for you. The other escorts you into the inner door. He knocks on it. A voice calls from the other side. Enter. The knight opens the door for you and you limp inside. Inside is a large table with several members. The king sits at the other end of the table. You see an open spot marked with your name and sit down on the chair at it. The king addresses you. Good morning, Good morning, Sister Clement. How are you feeling?
Better, Your Majesty. The doctor has given me a clean bill of health.
Excellent. The door opens and Viking walks in carrying a briefcase. Good morning, Commander Viking. Your Majesty, sisters, gentlemen. Deliver your report, Commander. Viking places the briefcase on the council table and sighs loudly. As this council is aware, 2 weeks ago the palace was attacked by Charian commandos. My investigative team has concluded that their main objectives were to retrieve classified information from the Grand Archive and to kidnap Princess Lucy in order to gain leverage over the royalty. At minimum, 12 Solaris Knights and 5 Sisters were killed while protecting key personnel and locations during this attack. I have discovered that the commandos infiltrated the city via an underground network. This was accomplished by help from members of the crime family formerly under the leadership of one Sonny Malone, aka you interrupt.
That's, Sonny the slaver?
Viking turns to you. Do you know of him, Colonel Clement?
Only stories about how he enslaved entire villages and sold them to Sharian elite for high profit. I don't think it was really true.
Unfortunately, it is true. Malone has been secretly in contact with Char from inside prison. The king stands up and turns towards one of the counselors. Counselor Hayes, what is your recommendation? Your Majesty, it is my recommendation that we declare war upon Char and prepare our army to march upon their city and capture their leadership. Anyone in disagreement? Nobody speaks. Very well. Assemble the 802nd, the 604th, and the 12th Commandos. He turns to Viking. Commander, I want you and Colonel Clement to interrogate Malone, find out everything he knows, and under no circumstances are you to use torture. Intimidation is fine to an extent, but active torture is strictly forbidden. Am I understood? Yes, Your Majesty. That leaves one thing. Clement, if you are able, please rise.
I prefer to sit, Your Majesty. No insult intended.
Very well. The lead sister rises and walks towards you, taking out a ceremonial sword from the scabbard on her side and gently places it on your right shoulder. Sister Knight Jocelyn Clement, for acts of singular daring, loyalty, and commitment to the protection of Princess Lucy, it is my privilege to award you the Tor White Rose Medal of Valor. Your actions are in keeping with the highest forms of service, and reflect greatly upon yourself, the Sisters of Valkyria, the people of Char, and the Solaris Knights. I am honored to call you a sister and child of the Valkyrie. Two sisters and Commander Viking approach you and salute, and the lead sister pins the medal upon your uniform. The counselors rise and applaud. Everyone returns to their seat, but the lead sister does not. She addresses the king. My lord, regarding our tradition of cremating fallen sisters, I would like Clement to be present for the ceremony and to take the rite of induction to become a fully fledged sister at the same time. Forgive me, sister, for questioning this, but the rite of induction involves preparation for the part of the ritual that involves branding, does it not? Yes, it does. The king turns towards you. Clement, are you willing to go through this ritual?
I am, if it allows me to protect Princess Lucy to the highest degree within my authority.
I will have the ceremony prepared for tomorrow morning. Until then, I take my leave. The king nods, the sister bows her head and walks out of the room. I believe that is all that needs to be discussed. I declare this council adjourned. The councilors rise from their seat and exit the room. Viking comes over to you as you rise slowly. Fair warning, Colonel. Malone is a real piece of work. He most certainly will spout insults towards you regarding the fact that you are a woman in a position of power.
Well, sticks and stones, Commander, and I have the bigger rock.
Well said. Shall we then?
After you, Commander.
You follow Viking as he leads you to the entrance of the prison. After a few minutes of waiting, a prison guard approaches and escorts you to one of the cells and opens it. Inside is a man likely to be at least 6.5 feet tall. He looks at Viking. Mr. Viking, to what do I owe this unexpected visit? X, I brought you some chocolate, ton variety. Delicious from what I've heard. And what do I have to do to earn it? Stand where and do what we tell you. Fair enough. He looks at you. Who's the lady? This is Sister Knight Jocelyn Clement. She is assisting me today. I don't know if you heard, but the palace was attacked 2 weeks ago and Princess Lucy's life was in danger. You're kidding. I'm not. Clement here jumped in front of a crossbow bolt aimed for Lucy, and you will treat her with respect. He bows his head a small bit towards you. Ma'am. You return with a nod. Viking motions for the men to follow him. Let's go. Viking hands you the chocolate, and you walk up beside him.
What's his story?
You look back at Hicks falling behind you. This man here is Butcher Hicks. Killed 20 people with his bare hands. Confessed the whole thing. Normally, a crime like that gets you enrolled in the Gladiator program or a one-way trip to the Rock. But because he confessed and pled guilty, the judge gave him 30 years instead of life, and he's my pen pal in this manner of speaking. And when we're done, give the chocolate to Hicks. I am a man of my word after all.
One question. What if we can't get the information we need out of Malone?
Well, we go to plan B. Hicks is our backup.
Of course you have a plan B.
Fair warning, Malone is a narcissist. He needs to be in control of the situation. We're going to lull him to a false sense of security and then rip it right out from under him. Do you think he can play along?
What do I have to do?
He's going to have to try to get under your skin. You got to think that he's inside your head.
I can do that. I don't like it, but I can do it. There isn't much that gets under my skin, though.
Oh, trust me. He will get under your skin. What about me? Same thing, but we got to make sure he buys into it, otherwise we won't get anything out of him. You approach a room with a window and see a skinny man, likely in his 40s, cuffed to bindings on a large table. Viking opens the door. You walk in and sit on one of the chairs at the table. Viking takes a seat next to you, and Hicks stands in the corner with his arms folded. The man speaks towards Viking. Well, 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 look what the cat dragged in. He looks at you. That's the problem with this place. They let anyone in here. You pull out a file folder and open it up, reading from the file.
Sonny Malone, born to Sharia nobles, escaped the giant assault, but came back after the end of the conflict, made your wealth selling arms, but expanded your operation to slavery. During the last crime family annual meeting, you never received an invitation because you refused to comply with the policy of no slave markets. Eventually, you started up an operation in the capital before W5 agents shut you down and you were captured and sentenced.
Am I supposed to be impressed? You lean forward and give him a soul-crushing stare.
No, we know you were involved with smuggling the commandos into the city, Malone. We want to know how you did it with your operation shut down.
I'm not telling you a frackin' thing, much less a woman. Hicks approaches and places one of his large hands around Malone's throat. You and Viking get up and try to pry his hand off.
Easy, Hicks.
Your words calm him down and he lets go. He gives Malone a menacing stare. Say any shit like that again in front of the lady and I'll rip your arms off. Got it? Malone looks at you. So you brought a gorilla to intimidate me. Big flippin' whoop. I'm not scared. Oh, you will be, Malone. This isn't a run-of-the-mill gorilla. This is Butcher Hicks. He tore apart 20 men with his bare hands, and they're still picking up the pieces. Hicks here doesn't like human traffickers, much less ones that send assassins to kill a little girl. And he sure as hell doesn't like you. And guess what? He's going to be your new cellmate. So I suggest you avoid actively trying to piss him off unless you want to get sent back to char in pieces. You know, I should have had 2 snipers at the palace. One for you and one for the little grunt car. They would kill you first, and as you lay there dying, you'd be helpless to stop them from killing the little grunt car. Further proving that you are not fit to be a bodyguard, much less one who is charged with protecting a royal. You scowl at him and then lunge over the table trying to strangle him, but Viking holds you back. Easy, Clement. Not yet. You relax. That's right. Keep your pet on a leash. You clock him in the face. He groans in pain, blood dripping from his nose.
Still feel like being a smartass, Malone?
I ain't talking, and since you're not allowed to torture me, you got nothing over me. That is where you are wrong. Viking pulls out a gold piece. This is our plan B. Heads or tails, Byron?
Tails.
Hicks? Heads. Viking tosses the coin in the air as time slows down. The coin flips rapidly near the top of the room, then comes back down to Viking's waiting hand. But your reflexes kick in and you snatch the coin midair and open your hand, revealing tails. Viking chuckles. So it's going to be that, eh? He exits the room. A minute later, he comes back in and motions for you and Hicks to exit. You exit and see 3 men standing in the hall. One of them is Fern, and they walk towards you. Jocelyn Clement, allow me to introduce NCIS agent Leroy Jethro Gibbs, investigator Harry Callahan. You turn to Callahan and shake his hand.
So you're the one they call Dirty Harry.
I've been called that. I'm unconventional, but I get results. Bend the line. Don't break it. That's rule 14. Nice.
Why did you call in Fern?
We need a specialist in extracting information. You and I are under orders not to employ torture. Fern isn't. Malone likely knows about Fern's reputation, so reverse psychology is probably our best play right now. This might get messy, though. Oh, don't worry. I'll get him to talk. If I wanted to employ torture, I would have brought my pedicure kit. The king gave me orders not to cause physical harm to Mr. Malone. Shall we? Viking leads you and the group back inside. Gibbs pulls up a chair. Harry stands in the corner with his arms crossed. He looks over at Hicks and simply nods. And Fern pulls up another chair as you and Viking sit down. Malone looks around at Gibbs and Harry and Fern. What is this, a feckin' law enforcement convention? Fern stands up and pulls up his left sleeve, revealing a tattoo with a skull and a Roman numeral 4. You recognize it immediately and your eyes widen. Malone's face becomes pure terror. No, that can't be. The Black Viper died years ago. No, he didn't. He's very much alive and real, and still looking back for payback for what Rod did to my family. It was just a feckin' horse, though. You chuckle.
Strike 2.
It wasn't just a horse. It was the closest thing I had to a companion that could heal my soul from all the terrible things I had done. When those thugs broke into my home and killed my wife and daughter and horse, they didn't just rob me of a horse. They stole the thing that was keeping me from losing my sanity and going back to Char and wiping out the entire regime. And then I went back and found my mother in the slave market, malnourished with whip marks all across her back. And her last words to me were how much she loved me and that my father would be proud of me for healing my spirit. And then she died in my arms. I slaughtered all the slavers, handlers, buyers, the whole deal, and set the slaves free. And now I find out that you smuggled Charian commanders into the city, which threatened the lives of the royal family, and several sisters and Solaris Knights are dead because of these commandos, and you're continuing to run your slavery operation while inside prison. Oh, I'm very mad right now. So you either tell us what we want to know about what Char's up to, or I will make sure you spend the rest of your days in complete, utter fear, constantly looking over your shoulder for me, because I will make sure you are ruled in the gladiator ring, and I will make sure that I am there to fight you. And when I've killed you, I will see that you do not get any form of dignified burial. Instead, I will see your head mounted on a fudging spike. You get me? He slams his fist hard on the table, making you and Malone jump. It leaves a visible dent in the table. You see absolute terror in his eyes until he starts crying. Okay, I'll talk. Good choice. Take the cuffs off. Viking undoes the cuffs and Malone massages his wrist. You pull a device from your belt, set it on the table, and activate it. It beeps for a minute before blinking on and off intermittently.
You know what this is?
Should I?
It's a truth zone generator. If you're inside its radius, you cannot lie. You are forced to tell the truth. You tell us what we want to know, and we won't ship you off to Samaria.
Okay. What do you want to know?
Is Char planning any more attacks?
They're planning to assassinate Princess Lucy on Friday at her birthday celebration. There's an assassin that will be perched somewhere on the roof. Someone in the king's court is in on the conspiracy too. I don't know who, though.
Thank you. Guard?
A guard opens the door and enters the room.
Take Malone back to his cell. Make sure he gets a hot meal before you ship him off to Samaria.
Wait, you said you wouldn't ship me off to Samaria if I talked. We lied. The guard recuffs Malone and leads him off down the hallway. You give the chocolate to Hicks. We appreciate your help, Hicks. Anytime. Would it be possible for me to come to Lucy's celebration? I'll see what I can do. No guarantees, though. I understand. Hicks walks off back to his cell. You turn to Gibbs, Harry, Viking, and Fern.
Oh, kidnapping is no longer an option. They're going to try and assassinate Lucy.
Gibbs pipes up. Question is, what does this gain them? And who's the inside person?
I don't know, but we will have to inform the king about this.
I will look into Malone's dealings to see if we can't track down a possible lead. Good idea, Harry, and thanks for backing us up. Anytime. They walk off. Viking turns to you. Good play with this truth zone. Threatening him and trying to scare him into talking wasn't getting us anywhere, even for his reputation.
Speaking of which...
You turn to Fern.
You're the Black Viper?
Unfortunately, yes.
Is it true that you killed 12 people with a quill?
Okay, first of all, it was 5 people. Secondly, it was a spoon. And finally, they were drunk and I wasn't left with many options. Plus, one of them had a knife.
I always heard the stories. I thought they were exaggerated.
Well, let's just say many of them have been watered down and some have been over-exaggerated.
Is it true what you said about this Raw killing your horse?
Yes and no. Raw didn't kill my horse. It was the son of one of the Char families and a couple of his punk friends. I'd rather not talk about the details. Besides, you have a ceremony to attend tomorrow, and the last thing I want to burden you with is worrying about Lucy's safety while you're going through the induction ceremony. Rest assured, sister, I will explain everything when the time is right. End session. Alright, well, that was interesting. Clement, do you have any closing thoughts or any comments you want to make before we sign off?
I'm really curious to know who the inside person is. See if their identity is revealed.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything because we want it to be a surprise, but if you've seen the live-action version of The Three Musketeers, then you probably know where this is going, but that would be too much of a cliche, so I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say a word. Anyway,
All right.
anyway, yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Yeah, if and don't forget, bring your nunchucks, bring your quarterstaffs, bring all that, bring all the martial arts stuff because we're gonna be talking monk. We'll see you guys next week.